And hello, everyone. Welcome back to Showing Up Whole, the place where we discuss alignment in mind, body, heart, and spirit in every aspect of our lives. And today we are having a really important conversation because we're talking alignment for the next generation. We are talking with Karen Green, who's a tenured professor and director of the Mental Health, Social Service, and Addiction Counseling Program at Mount Hood Community College. She has 16 years of experience as a kindergarten to sixth school social worker, but she's really been focusing on navigating anxiety, trauma, and behavioral challenges for the 4 to 11-year-old range. Karen specializes in attachment-informed prevention education, using neuroscience, nervous system literacy, and attachment theory into practical tools for everyday families. You see why we are having her as a guest, because you know this is things that we talk about all the time. I'm going to be sharing all of her links later on, but let's dive into the conversation with Karen. Hello, Karen. It's wonderful to have you here.
Hello, it's so great to be here. Thanks for having me.
I am so eager to dive in. There's so many different places that we can go with this conversation. So we really are coming in to talk also about how you have created a system based on these cards. What are these cards called again, just to remind us?
It's called Conscious Care Cards, and there are 72 of them divided
Brilliant.
into six different categories: empowerment, resiliency, emotional regulation, connection, happiness habits, and caregiver kindness.
Okay. So I mean, talk about a brilliant pack. And so I want to the reason why I'm mentioning that right away, and often I don't start interviews with like, let's talk about what you're actually bringing to us today. But I wanted to kind of dive into it because it seems like the various sections of these cards, the topics of these cards are such a good framework for what we can talk about here. So are
Yeah.
these cards specifically for the carer? Are we directing this conversation for the carer, or as how they can help themselves, or is it to help the children?
Great question.
Thank you.
Actually, the answer is both.
Hey, my favorite.
So, what we know is like if we take a 30-foot view of attachment, a fully integrated self, a securely attached self, so either that's the child or the caregiver who is whole, is capable of accessing their internal structures of right and wrong and their intrinsic sense of self and worthiness. And this all gets developed within a relationship, a healthy relationship, which is what we know in the research as secure attachment.
Okay, beautiful. Let me ask you this. Can you explain attachment theory? Because there's a lot of things.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of things about attachment theory. We all, right, in my head, it's like attachment or avoidant theory. Like there's that whole department, but
There,
that is not what we are talking about here.
So what I've done and why conscious care cards came into existence is that basically when am working with children or families, and now as I am teaching the research around attachment theory, what the attachment theory is so well put by Dan Siegel, which is the neurobiology of we. So what we know is that children need a relationship, a safe container, a safe relationship with one primary person to attach to. And within that relationship, a healthy, secure attachment is where they start to develop their sense of me. So a healthy we translates to a healthy me. That's like the boilerplate for attachment theory, right? And so if you have an intrinsic sense of self and you believe in your own worthiness, then you're capable now of having authentic relationships, which Harvard is now saying in the longest longitudinal study, authentic relationships connect to longevity and happiness, right?
Mhm.
And you can connect with people, you can be attuned and be present because you have an intentional inner emotional landscape of calm. And so then you can show empathy to yourself and you can show empathy to others. And so what we're seeing and what you just mentioned is the attachment trauma, right? Like,
Mhm.
so attachment trauma, I believe, is not a private family issue. It's a public health issue. And I see a secure attachment as truly the ultimate goal to help heal the world. And research concurs. Like, I'm on a mission to help heal 1 million kids by helping caregivers own their impact as their child's primary healer. You can take your child to therapy for 50 minutes a week, right? Yes, and that intervention works. But what the attachment theory is saying, what neurobiology is saying, it's the primary relationship and the health of that relationship that is going to be the predictor of emotional well-being in the long run.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, brilliant. So, therefore, then, of course, working on yourself as that carer is going
Yes.
to provide, and of course, clearing and
Yes.
releasing your own attachment trauma
Yes.
versus, and then creating your own attachment well-being, therefore, then
Yes.
is your first goal in order to be
It
present
is.
with the people in your lives, the little people in your lives.
The little
Yes.
people in our lives. And so, what we know is that the little people in our lives do need an attuned adult. They need a present figure that is mirroring and reflecting who they are, right? So, what we
Mm-hmm.
know around attachment trauma is it creates internal separation and fracture, right? And so, these fractured people are capable of doing terrible things to themselves and others because they didn't have an internal structure developed within themselves. And so those fractures can detach you from your empathy or your internal need for
Mm-hmm.
connection, right? So what we need is we need modeling and mirroring in early relationships so that they can intrinsically embed and become capable of empathy.
Right.
Empathy being the bedrock.
Yes.
So if I'm empathetic toward myself, I can much more easily be empathetic toward you. But really, if I have a fractured or disassociated self, I'm not going to be able to be present with you because it's chaos in here. So I'm going to project chaos outside, right? So the way that we start healing our world is healing our little people by being present with them so that relationship can be a protective relationship. It can repair and we can intervene. And so then the resiliency research is saying that caregiver can help build the self, the internal self for the child.
Beautiful. Okay, there's like
And
5
really
different
it's
questions.
like that's very heady, and
Yeah.
I've learned that through reading and studying lots and lots of books. But when
Yeah.
I meet with parents, that kind of lectury kind of jargon that we just talked about isn't helpful, right? Because they're like, okay, well, I got to drive my kid to soccer, I got to make dinner, I got to pack lunches and do bedtime rituals. So what I saw in my work was that children are struggling with regulation
Mm-hmm.
because the caregiver is that stress that the caregiver's feeling becomes a divider in that relationship.
Right.
And so the parents need tools, simple, screen free, research backed micro rituals that build inheritance right now. Like, okay, you have 7 minutes, pull this card, sit down, and let's give you an idea for connection in minutes so that you can shift this system.
Right.
And what, the research is saying very clearly that it doesn't need to be 2 hours. It doesn't need to be this huge trip or this, this expensive purchase. It needs to be literally 40 seconds. They've registered brain changes in 40 seconds of presence. So the parent that can put down the phone, put the dinner on simmer, sit on the floor, pull a card, and color while building emotional intelligence, just following this script. You don't have to read the books. You don't have to dive into the research. It's been boiled down into like inner regulation, outer connection, generational change.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay, I'm curious because I know that you work a lot with educators, and I know that we have a lot of educators who do listen to this podcast.
Yes.
Now, I'm something that keeps kind of coming on a little bit on a loop for me is the consistency of this and the
Yeah.
long-term attachment, which I know for a lot of people listening to this, they might say, well, that's great. Okay, so I'll build attachment. Say if you are an educator, I'll build attachment for 1 year, and then all of a sudden become the person that's hearing this child and therefore then sending them off into the jungle with just
Yes.
one term behind me. So out of curiosity within that, and I mean it's probably to the same way when you're like an aunt or you're a
Yeah.
cousin or you're a
Yeah.
grandparent. We have various lengths of time. And I mean also
Yes.
you have a busy parent as well. And actually no, we're going to shelve the busy parent. Hold on, busy parents. We're going to shelve you for a sec because that's a totally different conversation. So, out of curiosity, for the educators listening, for the people who have children in and out of their experience, how does this support them?
That's a great question because I think bottom line, your question is, do you have to be in this child's life for years and years and years for this to even help or work?
Well, I think a lot of people could actually even feel guilty if they
Yeah.
become that sole person and then all of a sudden, Saranara, you're gone.
The good news that with that, and this is backed by Bowlby, but also a bunch of other, neurobiology research, it doesn't have to be the same adult.
Oh, okay.
And what you're doing as the regulated adult mirroring is you're creating an internal structure that once your relationship is changes and morphs, they're left with those gems
Mhm.
inside themselves.
Yeah,
And truly it doesn't, so it could be within my relationship therapeutically it was 50 minutes for maybe 6 weeks, right?
right.
So if you think of any sort of really healing relationship, it doesn't necessarily have to be years and years as much as it needs to be when it's happening, when you're pulling the card and you're taking the 7 minutes, you are fully present for those 7 minutes.
Right.
You are doing what the card's saying. You're reading the script because every word is data driven. And then you're mirroring and teaching how to slow down enough to be emotionally attuned to them. And it's sacred work that your relationship you're building, right? Because we're
Right.
healing in relationship. It's not a cognitive thing. We're
Yes.
healing in nervous system regulation.
Yeah.
And those self-soothing skills are dropped into that child, and it's not like because you go away those skills go away.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Got
Yeah.
it. Got
And
it.
so
I think,
so
yeah.
yeah, and so really it's the caregiver, it's the school counselor, it's the person in the hall that sees the child who's struggling to regulate. It's whoever is there and capable of tuning in, that's where the architecture of the inner me you're developing, right?
Okay.
And
So,
so
yes. Sorry. Go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead.
no, and so it's through the rituals, the micro rituals that the inner me is being developed. But even if, say, you worked on the foundation and then I worked on the first floor, inner relation, like their
Yeah.
inner stability, it doesn't that it's not like that person is as important as what you're building inside. This sense of
Right.
safety, this internalized safety, this internalized belonging and
Got
worthiness.
it. Got it. It's funny because I think we can probably all look back at our childhoods and think of a couple of people here and there that have acted as, and I mean, ironically,
Yes.
the one that keeps playing on my head, and anyone who listens to this podcast for any length of time probably has heard me say this. One of my heroes has always been Fred Rogers, who,
Mm.
Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And
Mhm.
it's interesting because
Mm.
this is the kind of connection that he built even through the screen,
Through the screen.
which is a phenomenal, gifted thing to be able to do, but it was building that relationship. And
It's
it's, yeah,
absolutely, you're
yeah,
you're absolutely correct, and that would be backed by the research around resiliency, which says it's only one person,
yeah,
truly.
yeah,
And really, we're lucky to have be able to recall that one person.
yeah,
And I have a person too that I'm recalling, and that person only spent probably 45 minutes with me. And so it's the quality, not the quantity of
right,
of the time. And it's when the two nervous systems regulate together, that the internal regulation operation system starts really embedding,
Right.
right? And
Beautiful.
so we're operationalizing all attachment theory by putting them into these rituals, right? Like by putting them into these cards that, you know, Mr. Rogers could pull, or who's the new Mr. Rogers, which is Miss Rachel, could pull, you know, like they could do this on the screen of TV, or whoever wants to, if your aunt wants to come over and get down on the floor and pull out a piece of paper and do like the spider web of support card, where you're doing an activity where you're drawing the child's name in the center and then 3 consecutive circles and then lines out so that it looks like a spider web. But you have the child name 6 people who do well with your feelings. So you just say that broadly. Who are 6 adults that do well with your feelings? Don't, as the adult, give them the names, right?
Mm.
So part of the magic of the card is they come up with those people. Who are my people? And then you're going to ask them to put them how close they feel to that person, depending on where they are in the center. And they now have a physical artifact of who their people are. And then, like when I went into Malibu schools and we did a family event, then I gave scenarios to the child. Like, you go out on the playground and you think you're going to swing with your best friend, but you get to swings and she's swinging with someone else and totally ignores you. Who do you want to tend to that feeling? First of all, what was the feeling? Second of all, who do you point to, who in your circle, in your spider web you want to go to? Well, what was really important for the mom that came up to me after that event, she's like, first of all, I would have never put those 6 people. Second of all, I didn't know she felt so close to and talks to the cafeteria woman and the bus driver so much. So I, as the mom, need to get to know those people more. But also, she's like, I was so relieved to know that she didn't point to me every scenario. Like
Mm.
she has people, you know? And so
Yeah.
then now this artifact is not only a really great activity you did with your person, right? But now you have a visual map of who loves you. And where are you going to, we decided in that event, where are you going to put that in your home so
Right.
that when you do get a sense of loneliness, look at your spider web,
Yeah.
go point to somebody, and let's try and reach out to whoever that is. So then we're embedding skills without one piece of lecture, without one waggy finger, without, you know, without like blah blah blahing about
Yeah.
it, but you're actually doing it.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I mean, that's such a wonderful way. I mean, I've always loved to use crafts and different ways of
Mm-hmm.
embodying things for kids.
Yes,
Okay. Now,
yes.
out of curiosity. So that's like a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I mean, like these are the types of things that I've always loved to do when my kids were little. This is the kind of stuff that I was always really into, to help
Yes,
them feel their way and embody concepts, right? So therefore
yes.
then it was fully integrated. So you've made a
Brilliant.
beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Okay, out of curiosity, because to bring it back to the carer's card so that they feel, because it's very easy as a carer of any child, you are busy, you immediately it
We're busy.
people, and you know, self-care as well as connection time can turn into a should. It can
Yes.
turn into the responsibility of, oh God, I forgot to do the card. Oh my goodness, I've got to do the card. Okay, let's quickly do the card. Let's quickly do the card. It becomes
Right.
pressurized and it becomes a sense of responsibility rather than the deeper inner work. And then the connection and attachment is lost
You're
because they're
so
not present.
brilliant. You're so brilliant to bring that up, and that is definitely something that I thought about very much, because one of the things that we know about nervous system regulation and, you know, moving yourself from the sympathetic state back into the parasympathetic state
Hmm.
is that parasympathetic state where connection happens.
Yep.
So you're talking about the parent being busy, the parent being like, I got to do this all before dinner, and they're now in the sympathetic state. And
Hmm.
you're correct, there's no connection going to happen in that
Yep.
state. And so every card asks you to set the ritual by taking some time, lighting a candle, making some tea or cocoa, and then pulling a card. And
Okay.
this is the practice of teaching both the caregiver and the child, how do I notice what state I'm in?
Hmm.
How do I take a inventory of that? And then what are the skills I need to shift? And so ideally, if the parent is feeling stressed, they can say, hey, I need to take the time to light the candle and breathe the hot tea steam and then really land here before we pull a card. Now you're modeling
Hmm.
how you can shift.
Yeah.
And that is attunement, right? That's the beginning of the attunement. And then you pull the card. And like you said, you loved to do the crafts and the activities. But so many parents don't have the time to Google the activity, right? So
Hmm.
here's 72 of those activities that truly repeating the activity is grooving the pathway even deeper in the brain of both the child
Absolutely.
and the caregiver, right?
Absolutely. Yes. Okay. So out of curiosity though, because you've done large events, and
Yes.
I can feel the educators in listening to this being like, yes, but I have a class of
Yes.
25. How do
Yes.
they find
So that
their
is, yeah,
moment?
that's a
And
great
actually,
question.
probably cards aside, they're like, yeah, wait, how do I find my moment?
Yes. They don't have very many moments, right?
No.
Well, so this, I have done large groups, and I've done large groups with parents and children, or children and whatever caregiver they're special adult, we call
Hmm.
them. And so we're doing cards together. But these cards are not meant for a like a teacher to pull for
Okay.
a whole class activity
Hmm.
unless they have the ability to have one-on-one
Okay.
with all the kids.
Got it.
But what the ways that the school districts that have bought bundles for their social emotional learning programs, it's the break rooms. So we have boxes in break rooms. We do have boxes in principals' offices. Many principals, instead of like calling the parent and being like, your child is getting in trouble again, they're offering the box. Like, can we
Oh.
partner with you? Can you do these at home? And can we see if that helps behaviors de-escalate? And what we did see, like for instance, we had this one child, I worked with this one girl we'll call Mary, who moved a bunch. She was in
Mm.
third grade and she's moved 3 times, and she was verging on selective mutism, and she
Hmm.
was not wanting to eat, not able to sleep. We were very concerned for Mary. And I was doing good work with her, and she was definitely opening up in my office, but then I would send her back to class and it just wouldn't land or wouldn't
Hmm.
last. And so there's an activity in this box called transitional object card, and it really talks about, it really addresses like attachment in a tangible way. Like, I'm going to put a string to my heart and I'm going to tell you how much I love you. And you're going to put a string to your heart and that same string and tell me how much you love me. And we're going to blow our love into the string. And then we're going to go a little bit further away. And then we're going to go around the corner. And then we're going to go to a completely different room. And we're going to pull on the string. And that string is a visual representation of our connection and our love. And so I asked her mom if she had the bandwidth to do the transitional activity 2 times a week. And my God, after the third week, Mary was a different person. I
Mm.
had the recess woman come to me and be like, Mary was playing in the jungle gym and she was like laughing. And then the math teacher came to me. Mary is a completely different person. She raises her hand, she participates. And truly, what I learned was that there were reasons that Mary had to move 3 times that year, traumatic reasons. And the
Mm.
mom was disassociating, right? And
Right.
the activity, the mom came to me in tears saying, that activity helped me more than I think it helped Mary.
Yeah.
Like, we as parents and caregivers, we also need those somatic reminders that we're connected, the
Yes.
somatic co regulation.
Yes. Yeah.
that we're a team, you know, there's
Yeah.
a team us card and a team, you write a team poster. And sometimes the caregiver asks like, what's one activity we do together that really makes you feel like we're a team together? And sometimes the kids will come up with, you know, crazy times when you're like, really? Driving to soccer is like your favorite time with me when we're like in the car just talking, not your, or sometimes just silent, like
Yeah.
didn't know
Yeah.
that was your team time, but all
Yeah.
right, we'll do that more, you know.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I think all of that is par for the course. And yes, you can use the cards. You know, PTAs have been using them instead of doing book clubs. They're doing conscious care clubs where they're pulling
Mm.
cards and then they're telling stories about what they did and how they learned and what they learned, you know. But
Right.
it's, of course, nothing's perfect. You know, it's really the intention to connect is where we start.
Yeah. And that seems to be the it's as soon as a person, I'm a really big one on the choice and on the
Yes.
decision and the commitment to aligning. And as soon as you set the intention of pulling the card, I mean, it's interesting because it reminds me of like oracle cards, you know, kind of setting yourself to actually
It's
feel like the
100%.
card. Yeah, and then you get the action and then you get the guidance of what your step will be, and you are trusting that the universe is going to nudge you in the direction of what's actually needed. So there's a
Yes.
beautiful connection within that.
And
Do you?
absolutely. And I think, like you're saying, if that parent is taking time to regulate and
Yes.
setting the intention to connect, that child is feeling that
Yeah.
container.
Yes.
And that container can hold this new relationship, right?
Yes.
And all the cards end with a model this activity. So now the parent, like for instance the spider web of support, they focused on the kid. Now the parent is going to talk about a time, who are their people, and then what was a recent time you needed support and so you called, you know, Aunt Judy. And so that the child can see that the parent, even though we're grown up, we're still using skills to regulate. And the
Mm,
better we are at it, the happier we are. And
yes.
so I don't think parents share those skills in like a metacognition type of way enough.
Yep. Yep.
And the more they can talk about it, the more they can show they're reparenting themselves and soothing and repairing, the more the child knows that that's embedded in their relationship too, right?
Yes.
Mom isn't perfect, dad isn't perfect, but they're trying and they're working on it.
Well, and I think that I was actually going to ask that because I was going to ask whether you actually encouraged parents and carers to actually do the cards themselves, because
Yes.
I think that is such a powerful step. We
Such
often, it's so often these types of things can become, again, the things you do with the kids. They're important for the kids. Whereas as as carers, as parents, as just human beings who have kind of gotten a little bit more mature, we have a tendency to be in that state of always moving, always going. Nervous system regulation, I mean, which is I'm passionate about, can so
yes.
often become the deep breathing, deep breathing, deep breathing, rather than actually, I mean, that as a spider web, it's like, well, actually, who are your people? How do you know you're feeling safe in your body when you know that you are surrounded by people who are there if you need them? Like
Yes.
those types of
And
things for
like
an adult.
it's for doing it shoulder to shoulder, having the focus be on the art, talking about your internal emotional landscape with your child, but also, you know, having the open invitation to your caregiver's internal world. That is such a authentic, grounded way to create that
Yes.
relationship. And
Yes.
what we, you know, Harvard's doing that longitudinal study about longevity and happiness, and they're all coming back to an authentic relationships. It's not quantity, it's not, oh, you're happy if you have five, it's quality,
Yeah.
right? And if you have at least one authentic relationship where you can be safe to be you, that's where your happiness lies and that's where your health lies.
Yeah.
And so if we can show that to children early as possible, then think of the change in the world. Like if I'm on a mission to
Absolutely.
help heal a million kids by helping caregivers own their impact as their child's primary healer. Like, yes, I'm a therapist, and yes, interventions, outside interventions are needed. But if you, as the caregiver, own this impact that you could have with the neurobiology of we, you're creating the neurobiology of we so that they can have a grounded sense of me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that, yeah, and then that parent, and that's why the next thing that I'm launching is the Reparenting the Parent Therapeutic Guided Journal, because you can have the intention and you can have the regulation, but if you have the blocks, your own blocks, which we all do,
Hmm.
of our own childhood trauma, that is the reason that we're unable to stay attuned and present
Absolutely.
with our children. And
Absolutely.
so creating a safe place within the conscious care community and within the journal so that you can really investigate, like, where were my wounds in parenting the way I was parented? How are they showing up as a parent for me? And what is my relationship to that shame, for
Hmm.
instance?
Yeah.
And how, meeting someone else's needs when your internal needs aren't taken care
Oh,
of is
absolutely.
the most difficult thing to do,
Oh,
right?
and absolutely. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
breeds resentment and it breeds this sense of like, oh, I have to do this and this and this. But if you can translate the, regulation and nervous system literacy into concrete skills that the
Definitely.
parent practices in the journal and then they practice with the child, then now we're really changing the family structure, the generational emotional inheritance.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. It really is. And of course, I mean, this is um now I can't remember where I was headed with this, but it really is it's the advanced version of what we're really realizing parenting is about, and it's about the fact.
Yes.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. That when we're actually looking at being authentic ourselves, I mean, a statement that I've often said is it's like get rid of the role of being a parent. Rather, it is about a relationship. You have to be a
Yes.
person within that relationship, and your child is a person too. Now,
Right.
within the interesting thing about offering these tools sometimes is when we're encouraging a child to really shine out as themselves, then
Yes.
sometimes the other people that they're dealing with in their lives don't necessarily understand. I mean, if a kid is at school and one teacher is offering them a conscious concept of living and they're present in themselves, then it can be hard for them to figure out how to navigate from a grounded whole space as well. So within relationships with other people, because again, they're short micro moments,
Yes.
how does this translate into their empathy for people who are not functioning in these types of things? And as a carer, how do you encourage people to set them up for that?
So that's a really great question too, and it kind of circles back to that initial question you had asked about, like, if you only know a child for a year.
Yeah.
If we're really trusting the research and the brain research around, we're stacking skills inside of them, right?
Hmm.
By stacking skills inside of ourselves, coming from a consciously aware place.
Yep.
So we're consciously aware of caring for ourselves, we're consciously caring for our little one, and we're creating a safe container in our relationship where they can be themselves.
Hmm.
These skills of resiliency and inner empathy, that is now embedded within them. And they're going to go out in the community. And just like you and I, right, we have people that we resonate with and that we
Hmm.
feel really understand us and hear us, and we can shine in that relationship. But you and I also, and all your listeners, have people in our lives who just do not resonate in
Yep.
the same frequency, right?
Yep.
And so that is also a skill. How can I accept that relationship? How can I, be within that relationship without disassociating from my true authentic self? And then if I have created that, because I've used these cards and I'm doing the journal and I'm going into my conscious care community, this is a place where I can then open back up to that conversation.
Mhm.
And how do I choose me? How do I come back to choosing my inner self and have inner
Brilliant.
empathy? This is also a great way of teaching kids, how do you tune into that somatic compass, right? There are a ton of cards here that talk about that compass, and we use a lot of props for that. But when your internal compass is saying like a deep no, or even just, ooh, this is off, right? Like I used to
Hmm.
play with Bobby and I used to love Bobby, but now it's just kind of really my compass is feeling like it's not hitting, it's not right. Like, what can we do with that compass and how can we choose you? How can, without shaming or damning Bobby,
Brilliant.
right? Like,
Yeah.
and then and how can we be fluid with the fact that relationships change and that even though you felt
Yeah.
safe you might not feel safe now, and all of that is within the learning of the we of that healthy attachment.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And
Got it.
because we know that a healthy attachment is going to translate as a healthy self.
Yeah. So really within the card, because it's always there's so many different layers that we can work through these things, right? And we have
Yes.
the nervous system regulation. I always kind of divide it up into those four worlds of self. You have like your nervous system, you have your physical
Yes.
reality, you have the
Yes.
heart reality, you have the head reality, and you have your spiritual reality and the energetic reality. I'm hearing you use phrases as like resonance and
Yes.
choosing your inner self and your inner world,
Yes.
which is always a hard thing to translate into structures like education or structures. We kind of have a few bridges. We have mindfulness, we have consciousness, a
Yes.
little tiny bit. There's like these bridges that we kind of shoot out and create them.
Right.
But
Right.
it's important to have that kind of range of conversation. So, um, within this, though, really, when you come down to it, these tools of emotional regulation, of nervous system regulation, when you actually whittle them down, when you actually get into it, it is about actually understanding your own inner world from a
It is
spiritual
from a
space.
research space. I mean,
Okay.
yes, the spirit, it is all backed by research and academia, but I think you and I are speaking the same
Yeah.
language. We're just using different terminology.
Yeah.
I would, the sense of self within Jungian therapy is
Yeah.
definitely a lot of what we're talking about. We
Absolutely.
are using mindfulness and pranayama and breath work and that sort of thing in these rituals as well,
Okay.
embedded within the science of how is that translating to an integrated self,
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
that true self, is connected to your inner world, your spiritual world, all your access, you're able to access those other worlds.
Yeah.
But what we know within attachment theory, and just bringing back to how we started, you have to be a fully integrated self
Hmm.
to be capable of accessing your internal structures,
Right.
right? So
Yes.
we know like attachment trauma with the ACE study, the adverse childhood experiences study, we know that that fractured self, that trauma that creates inside the little being due to attachment trauma, those fractured people are capable of doing terrible things, and they are
Yeah.
doing terrible
Yeah.
things to themselves but to others. And if it goes unaddressed, it affects not only the individual, the families, it is affecting our whole community right now as we speak,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
The
Absolutely.
fractured sense of self leads to addiction, leads to violence, leads to exploitation and social harms because empathy isn't modeled or mirrored. And then they're capable of doing atrocities, right?
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
and on the other flip side, plenty of people who have had early trauma have become extraordinarily compassionate. And what do you boil that down to? Well, the resiliency research, which says it's just that one person, it's that fourth grade teacher, right? Or it's that one principal that took extra time with you to stew and mirror these skills.
Yeah.
Sometimes your child is going to bump into somebody who's remarkably present, and capable of mirroring and sharing space. And you don't even realize the healing power of that relationship.
Hmm. Absolutely. Well, and I think what's powerful about that statement too is the fact that we all have the opportunity
Yeah,
to be that person.
we
You,
do for
you know,
all of our little
it's
people.
the it, it's a it. I am the stereotypical person standing in the grocery aisle smiling at the baby. That's me.
Me too. Me too.
I love.
My
Like,
husband's like, okay, Karen, it's getting
yes,
creepy.
it's like,
Stop.
and time to take a step. Yes, I know. I
Stop
have had
talking
my
to that
arm
child.
pulled away. Okay, stop.
Yes.
Stop talking to the little ones. But, it's like it's that space, right? It's that smile, it's
Yes.
that connection. Every
And
single drop of that connection, human to human, soul to soul, energy to energy, interaction to
yes.
interaction. So often children specifically are seen as children. They're just given that kind of label as being a child and with the expectations of what children do. And that's always something that's felt very,
Very bad. And
yeah,
truly, why, in my view, children are the most sacred, the
yes,
most tender, have access to their heart in a way that we've all been closed off from.
yes. And
And
taught away
so
from. Yes,
and turned away from and turned into like consumers and producers. And so how do we keep the child connected to that purity
yeah,
in a way that they can then grow from there
yeah,
into whole beings?
absolutely.
And how do we teach the caregivers to take 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 12 minutes, sit down and open to learning from the child's purity
Hmm.
and that tenderness? How to connect back to that, who you always were, like who you are, who I am inside, that small girl who loves to climb pine trees. Like, how do we get those parents connected back into themselves so that they can hook into that sacred relationship that they have with that beautiful soul?
I think that to me that is such a powerful thing. You just said something really really powerful because so often I think parents are presented with tools or concepts and it does turn into the next have to and the next should.
No,
And
no,
if that what you're creating is giving them a moment to
just one.
actually reconnect to their own inner childhood and within their
Yes.
own inner child then create a relationship and help the other child. It's almost like child to child rather
Child
than
to
out of child.
child.
That is a
Absolutely.
powerful powerful thing. Out of curiosity, when you are offering these tools as an educator then and
Yeah,
as a carer, do you still have the opportunity of actually going within yourself within that?
I really do.
Yeah.
And I'm not perfect at it, right? Like I
Yeah,
I have a I have a coping mechanism to intellectualize, right? And that
we can
separates
all
me
do it.
from my tenderness.
Yeah, we can all do
And
that.
but I think these cards and the art, like the art in the cards, and each card has like a different art piece. And I really worked with this artist, Jordan Kim, who's amazing, to try and make the art communicate to the adult as
Mm,
much as to the child about like, remember, you were a little one too. And
brilliant.
you really loved to watch the snails and you loved to like connect to nature and all the things that are still the little Christina is still there.
Yeah,
And the minute you tap into that, I know a child can sense that
yeah,
immediately.
absolutely.
And they're like, you're my adult.
Yeah,
I love you. You
yeah,
get me. I get you. We can crawl on the floor and, talk about feelings in a way that's so approachable because now we're acting like different animals at the zoo. Like, how do you do that? Yes, these cards are an invitation for the parent to kind of take the hat off of all the
yes,
shoulds.
exactly.
Take like enroll them in soccer, do this, do
Yeah,
that,
brilliant,
and take 7 minutes and do some art and maybe do it with your non-dominant hand so that you can really tune back in to who
brilliant.
you were.
Yes. Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, because we're almost out of time, but I didn't really get to dive into this. How did you discover this? I just love to know a bit of your story. Like, how did you actually wake up to within this and actually create this?
I am in love with kids. Kids light me up in a way
Mhm.
that nothing else does. And I really started connecting to the purity and the tenderness and the beauty they have,
Mm.
and how I've learned so much from kids on how to be present and how to, we've all read the spiritual books, but I swear spending an afternoon with a kid is basically what the kid's telling us too,
Yeah,
right? It's
absolutely.
all temporary. You just connect to the now. Let's play,
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so, and I was a school counselor working with families, and I would ask, did you talk to your child or your child about what we're doing in session? And inevitably, the parent is like, oh, no, I'm not a therapist. Or, oh, I don't talk about emotions, these kind of things. And I was like, I just started writing scripts and giving them to the parent between sessions. And
Mm.
so pretty soon I had like 400 scripts. And then I became a tenured professor, and then I'm teaching all the attachment theory stuff. And I'm like, parents don't need another book.
Yeah.
Parents don't need another
No.
list of shoulds. Parents just need an invitation to sit on the floor and connect. And
Yes.
how do you build emotional intelligence without being so in your head,
Yeah,
right? So
absolutely.
this is like a metabolized way of like connecting to that
I love that.
tenderness, but get out of your head. Have fun
Yes.
with it. Parenting is a blast. Kids are so fun,
Yes,
and
absolutely.
we can access the
Absolutely.
fun and do some good.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Well, I think actually when we do access the fun, that is when we do
that
good,
is the
right? Like
healing.
it's
That's
an
the
amazing
moment.
thing how
Yes.
stop being really the tall one and
Yes.
pointing your fingers at the kids. Allow
Yes.
yourself to be human and have some fun and know that you are going to create that safety. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
remember that small little one of you in you.
Yeah,
And that
absolutely.
and they need tender and care too. And so how
Yes.
can you, and the more you show that, the easier it is to tend to the child,
Yes.
right?
And also, so often we hear people talk about, oh, well, parenting, our children are the teachers. And I've had so many people say, oh, well, I know children are the teachers, children are the teachers. And you can see this kind of blank look of, but what's the lesson?
Right.
It's like, I know that this is what's supposed to be because it's become such um a
A
catchphrase.
phrase.
It really
Yes,
has.
it
And
has. And
when
it's
you
lost the
actually
meaning.
it has lost the meaning. And when you actually give yourself the opportunity of getting on the floor and playing and having some
Yes.
fun and reminding yourself of what being a kid is, then
Yes.
suddenly that's what the lesson is. It's kind of
That's the
lighten up,
lesson. The
get
lesson is,
feel things through and stop being in the shoulds and stop being what everyone's told you to be.
and
Absolutely.
feel it like
Feel
fun,
it.
laughing, art, crafts,
Yep.
all these things that
Play.
we've,
Yep.
yeah, playing in general, that is, those are the healing moments.
Yes.
That's the connection moments. That's the time that you're looking,
Absolutely.
pupil to pupil in your child's eye, and you're flooding both of your brains with oxytocin, and this is the moment that this is connection,
Yes.
right?
Absolutely.
And if there's a block, then this is an opportunity. All these triggers are also growth moments. They're invitations to open that door and sit down and light a candle and get some tea and fill out one of the parenting journal
Absolutely.
prompts
Beautiful.
and figure out, like, why do I resist play?
Yep.
And then likely, so many parents, when I'm asking them these questions that I put together in this journal, it boils down to a wound.
Mm-hmm.
It boils down to that, when I was 4 and I asked my dad to play and he said when
Yep.
those moments of wounding block you from being the parent you really can be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. You have created beautiful, beautiful systems. This is fantastic. And I'm so
Thank
excited that
you.
everyone can come and check it. Your links will be below, but just in case anyone's listening and they don't know where to type, can you just say what your website is and where they can find them?
Very, very simple. Consciouscarecards.com.
Oh,
Consciouscarecards.com.
there you go. Easy to
Easy.
remember.
Easy to remember.
That's
Yes.
brilliant. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of this with us. And I'm sure that we will be seeing your cards absolutely everywhere because they're quite the gift.
Yes.
And
Yes.
yeah, I hope to hear from you again soon. We'll talk again
Thank you
later.
so much,
All right.
Christina. It's
You
been
take
so
care.
much fun.
So much
All
fun.
right, you
Okay.
too.
Bye now.